Hello, good evening to everyone, and welcome to this conference. First of all, and before we start with the conference, we want to send all our thoughts and our best wishes to all that who died, were injured, or in another way were personally affected by the war in Iraq. That being said, as you have maybe read, my name is Andoni Riondo. I am the Vice President of IFEI. IFEI is the European Free Alliance Youth, and which gathers up to 29 youth organizations from diverse ethnic minorities, lingual, and regionalist and stateless nations, gathering in defense of the self-determination and seen from a pro-European approach and progressive values. As you all know, or you should know, since the last day of September, a war happened between two European nations. And while most European Western media didn't put many attention on that war, people in Iraq were suffering war crimes. The main idea of this conference is to explain what has happened in Iraq during the last month, but also to provide information to understand the historic conflict around the territory of the called Nagorno-Karabakh. In order to get a good idea of the situation, we have invited three great speakers who will be able to offer different perspectives about the conflict. And first of all, I want to invite to this room Anush Gavalayan. Anush is a political scientist and political activist from Iraq. For 6 years, she worked as press secretary and advisor of the president of the National Assembly of Republic of Iraq. Good evening, Anush.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank you and IFEI Youth for organizing this event, this conference, and giving the floor to us to speak about Nagorno-Karabakh and the latest Azerbaijani aggression. So, thank you.
Thank you to you for accepting our invitation. And we also have Jon Iñárritu, currently the MP of the Spanish Parliament of the Basque coalition of EH Bildu. He studied law and international relations and has been very active supporter of self-determination movements all across Europe. So good evening, Jon, and thank you for coming here.
Good evening, Andoni. Good evening, Anush. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you so much for hosting this conference. And I will try to explain what I saw in Iraq 1 month ago, and I am glad to be here with you.
As you all have seen, Lika Zakarayan, the journalist, was also invited. She's dealing with some problems, with some connection problems. We are trying to get her into the room if that's possible. So during the conference, maybe she will try to enter. Before we start the conference, let me remind our viewers that they have the opportunity of making comments in YouTube and also in Facebook. And later in the conference, we are going to discuss if there are any question or whatever. And starting the first block, we are going to speak a little bit about the history of Nagorno-Karabakh, or Artsakh, or as you prefer. So the first question is going to be related with that. It's like, imagine Anush, I meet you everywhere, anywhere, and I tell you, where are you from? What is your answer?
A good question. Thank you. So I am from the Republic of Artsakh, also known as Nagorno-Karabakh. It's an unrecognized country in the South Caucasus region, located between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So that's from the perspective of geography and politics. What comes to our identity and set of values, we can say that we consider ourselves as a part of Europe and Europeans. And perhaps Artsakh is the last gate of Europe on its eastern border. So if I met you somewhere on Earth, I would tell about me in this way.
Okay, thank you very much. And as we have told and we know, Nagorno-Karabakh and Artsakh, there is a conflict. Can you explain us what are the roots of that conflict and why is nowadays so important also to understand what happened in the last months?
Sure. Thank you. The Azerbaijan-Karabakh conflict started not yesterday or September 2020 or earlier, but it started a century ago. It dates back to the period of the collapse of the Russian Empire and the formation of nation-states in the South Caucasus region, such as Armenia, Artsakh, and Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. To put it shortly and simply, the conflict had in its core the aspiration of the self-determination and the reunification within a united Armenian state in order to eliminate the permanent threat of physical annihilation. So for us, for the people of Nagorno-Karabakh, that's how we see the conflict. And back in 1918, when Turkey invaded the South Caucasus region, as a result of this intervention, military intervention, state of Azerbaijan was created. And Azerbaijan claimed not only territories populated by Muslims, but also the territories inhabited exclusively by Armenians. And Artsakh had a special importance among those regions due to its strategic position and as it could become either a corridor or a barrier between the Muslims of the Eastern Caucasus and Turkey, depending on the fact that under whose control Artsakh is. So at that time in 1920s, 1918 and 1920, when at that time Armenia was in war with Turkey, so Artsakh, which was inhabited exclusively by Armenians at that time, had to rely on its force only. And at that time, the assembly of the Artsakh Armenians convened and decided that it would proclaim independent government and form an independent government. So that means that back in 1920s, Artsakh was not the part of Azerbaijan, and it refused to recognize the Azerbaijani government. And well-documented fact indisputably confirmed that the population of Karabakh did not recognize the authority of Azerbaijani state in this period of time. And the aspiration of the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh for self-determination and their intention to be reunified within the Armenian state were reflected in the national liberation struggle. So then came the Soviet rule, and when the Red Army invaded into South Caucasus region, and they established the Soviet rule, they also declared Nagorno-Karabakh as a disputed region between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Then, when Azerbaijan was Sovietized and Armenia was also was Sovietized, and there was Soviet rule in all these places, the Soviet Communist Party decided that Artsakh should be part of Soviet Azerbaijan, and it will stay in the frontiers of Soviet Azerbaijan. But there are also orders of the Soviet Communist Party that an autonomous oblast should be formed on the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. But Azerbaijan also Azerbaijan didn't form an autonomous oblast on the whole territory of Nagorno-Karabakh, but on the territory on the Armenian part of the territory. So the borders of Nagorno-Karabakh autonomous region were drawn in such a way that a considerable part of the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh was left outside. So what we have during the Soviet time, Soviet rule, is that Azerbaijani targeted policy of the toward the Armenian population in order to expel Armenians from the region, to get Nagorno-Karabakh without Armenians, as the main aim of the Azerbaijani authorities was to get Karabakh, get the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh without the people, without its inhabitants, without Armenians. And during the Soviet rule, also we witnessed that Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast had been materials with an extremely underdeveloped infrastructure. The NKO and the surrounding Armenian regions had no single industry producing end products. So they did everything to keep Nagorno-Karabakh underdeveloped and to worsen the conditions of the people living there in order to expel them from this region. And also, we had our native language here during the Soviet Azerbaijani rule. Armenian as a language had practically been ousted from the official use. And the number of Armenian schools were also decreased day by day. And what comes to our churches and religion and the freedom of religion, we also can say that Azerbaijan did everything to close our churches, and they even use our churches, these buildings, as stores and basements to keep some products there. But they build up their mosques in order to meet their spiritual needs. And this kind of circumstances forced the Armenians, people living here, to start a liberation movement. And during the last decade of the Soviet Union, in 1980s, the people of Artsakh started a liberation movement in order to be transferred from the Soviet Azerbaijan to Soviet Armenia and be reunified with Armenian statehood. So that's the whole situation in the 20th century that we can speak about Karabakh issue.
Thank you for that historical and the explanation. So we understand that something happened after the Soviet Union collapsed. I mean, and that's my next question, is that what happened when the Soviet Union collapsed, and that conflict or that was inside the Soviet Union happened.
So when Mikhail Gorbachev came into power in the Soviet Union, he declared the perestroika, reconstruction, and the Armenians of the Nagorno-Karabakh region saw this as a sign to speak out about our rights to freely decide our own future. And the People's Deputies, the Council of People's Deputies convened a session and they made an appeal to the Baku and Yerevan, asking for transferring Nagorno-Karabakh from Soviet Azerbaijan to Soviet Armenia, and they were rely also on Moscow that the central authorities will do that. But unfortunately, from the very beginning of the national liberation movement, Azerbaijan has opted for solving the conflict by force and rejected any political dialogue. Armenian pogroms and massacres in Sumgait in February 1918 became one of the first manifestations of Azerbaijan's policy of intimidation toward Artsakh Armenians. And these pogroms also were followed by a wave of Armenian pogroms in different towns of Azerbaijan, including the capital Baku. And at the same time, Azerbaijan has imposed a blockade on Nagorno-Karabakh and unleashed terror against its population by attacking the peaceful settlements. So we started our struggle for through peaceful means, and we demonstrated just our will and asked to meet our aspirations. But Azerbaijan imposed war on us in order to suspend these aspirations. And during the early 90s, when they started active military actions, and there were hostilities, they imposed war. From the beginning of the war, we suffered losses, and we lost 40% of our territories at that time. But then our self-defense forces managed not only to repel the Azerbaijani offensive, but also regain control over Nagorno-Karabakh. And Karabakh Defense Army succeeded in stopping the advance of the Azerbaijani army and reached a breakthrough at the front line in 1993. In 1994, a ceasefire agreement was signed through Russian mediation, and Azerbaijani leadership was forced to conclude this ceasefire on Armenian terms. And after that, for almost 3 decades, peaceful negotiations were taking place under the auspices of the OIC Minsk group co-chairs, Russia, USA, and France. But we all knew that Azerbaijan is not interested in peace process, and Baku tries to solve the conflict through military means. And as our Armenian side, both Artsakh and Armenia, we always were alarming the mediators that Azerbaijan wants to restart the war, resume military actions in order to solve the problem, as they see only one solution to the problem, and they are going to restart the war. But there were no responses from the mediators, and we saw a couple months ago we saw that we were right regarding Azerbaijan's desire to solve the problem by military, and then this aggression proved that.
So, as Anush, you have told us, from 90s to until last month, there was like a period of around 30 years that there was like a frozen conflict. So my question is to Jon Iñárritu, is that we all know that in Europe there are some frozen conflicts, as Transnistria, as Ossetia, or whatever. How are these special status republics or seen in international politics? And if there are any effort to recognize them, to support them, and if we can put them all together, or we have to differentiate them? That's actually my question.
Yes, as you mentioned, there are different cases and different de facto states, because the first thing that we have to underline is that according to the international law, these territories are states. Why? Because what is a state? A state, according to Montevideo Conference, there are 4 criteria to identify an state. And here we have definite territory, permanent population, we have a government, and also we have here in Artsakh, we have a case, a territory that has international relations. Those 4 criteria are just the criteria to identify an state. What is the problem, if we can say that there is a problem, is the lack of recognition. The lack of recognition by UN, United Nations states. Nowadays, Artsakh, if I'm not wrong, I saw last week that the French Senate asked to the French government to recognize a campaign, and after we will speak about that. But the fact is that if Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, doesn't have nowadays other recognitions, is because there is, and Anush mentioned very well, there is a group of Minsk, and the purpose of this group was to find a solution, a peaceful, democratic solution by dialogue to the conflict. And for this reason, for example, no, Armenia didn't recognize Artsakh as a state, because other states as well were waiting for the final solution to the conflict. Now it's changing that, and we will speak after about that. But the thing is that those states, like North Cyprus, Transnistria, South Ossetia, Abkhazia, Artsakh, are states. And I've been before in Artsakh. I saw an state, democratic state. I've been in the elections like observer. They had a perfect system of elections, a justice court, an ombudsman, government, different institutions, a normal Western state. I mentioned before, the fact is the lack of recognition of other states. But nowadays, and as we saw in Kosovo, I think that we have a different situation after the last attack that began in 27 September from Azerbaijan and Turkey. And the fact is that I am sure that nowadays the only solution is a remedial secession case. As we saw in Kosovo, different international actors like international organizations, international bodies, different states recognize Kosovo as an independent state. And I think, for my point of view, that would be the only solution for Artsakh nowadays, taking into account, and Anush explained very well and largely what happened in the last century and in the last years. I think that nowadays the only solution is to recognize that the people of Artsakh, they have the right of self-determination. They have the right to decide democratically as they made 30 years ago in 91, held a referendum. They have the right to manage their land, because it's impossible that Azerbaijan, taking into account that they have they bomb, committing war crimes, the population that they want to control is impossible. It's impossible to accept. And I am asking also the international community to do something, to act, because if Azerbaijan is not able to manage that, and Anush as well mentioned the programs. We have different cases of war crimes, and I think that nowadays the only solution is the recognition of Artsakh, and to recognize the right of Armenians from Artsakh to decide their constitutional future peacefully, and would be not only the solution for Artsakh. I think that would be also helpful for the whole region.
Thank you very much for your answer, John. And as you have mentioned, we will enter in the war that started on 27th of September, which we can consider the largest aggression from the 19th since the 19th war. The first days of the war were full of uncertainty. I think that during all the war there was a full of uncertainty. The Western media didn't pay much attention until the last days, but not very much. Few journalists were able to go. No one from, or almost no one from the Azerbaijani side. And the situation has been very rough for all the wars for all the population. But it's, as John has mentioned, it is really, we can also consider that there have been war crimes, there have been drone bombing, there have been racimo bombs, and so on. So there have been a humanitarian crisis. So my question is to Anush, what has been the impact on the daily life of the Artsakh citizens during the war? How have you lived the war in these months?
So, I don't remember times in my life when we lived in peace here in Nagorno-Karabakh. There was neither war nor peace situation all the time before the September 27th aggression, and then came the armed hostilities. So our people's lives were and are adjusted to these conditions all the time, and during all these years. Nobody is dreaming of living in war-affected reality, but there is a saying that we don't choose our neighbors. I understand, and all people understand that neither Azerbaijani people nor us are going to leave this region. But we hope that people living on the other side of the line will finally understand this too. But the history and the experience shows that no. So Azerbaijanis do not accept our existence, our physical existence on these lands. So they prove this every time, and in every every time and all the time. So if during the previous military adventures of Azerbaijan, we saw that these actions were limited with the borderline incidents, except of course the 2016 war. And then this aggression, this war was the unprecedented one since the 90s war, both in the terms of scale and used advanced military technology, and direct involvement of Turkey and mercenaries in Nagorno-Karabakh, this region. So from the first day of the aggression, Azerbaijan intensively shelled Artsakh settlements, including capital Stepanakert, other towns. No single village or a town was an exception. So during the war, during the war days, people, mostly women and children, were forced to flee and seek safer places in Armenia. Around 90,000 people have been displaced from their homes. And these actions solely speak for one thing. Azerbaijan wants Karabakh, this land, without us, the people, and it showed that it was ready to kill 115,000 inhabitants in order to get the land, the soil. Otherwise, it didn't use banned weapons against us, the civilian population. Otherwise, it didn't commit war crimes. Otherwise, it will not make deliberate and indiscriminate shelling of civilian settlements, our infrastructure, and so on. Even after the war, when now it is stopped, the war, the armed hostilities are stopped now, but they continue to commit war crimes. They destroy and vandalize, they destroy our churches. They vandalize our graves, they destroy our graves, and do everything to clear Armenian presence, Christian presence on this land, and to show that Karabakh is Azerbaijan, even the territories which they got as a result of the war and as a result of the ceasefire agreement. They are even a 4th century monastery, Christian monastery on this land. So it's now under the Azerbaijani control. A 4th century monastery is now under Azerbaijani control, and we worry about their fate. And I think that also the civilized world should worry about their fate, because these monasteries belonging to the Middle Ages are not only Armenian heritage, but also this cultural heritage belongs to the world. So we know that not all countries have monasteries belonging to the 4th century in these times. So this war gave us not only human losses, territorial losses, so damaged, destroyed houses, destroyed towns and villages, damaged infrastructure, and so on. But it also gave us distrust to the world, to the international community, that who left us alone against the Turkey-backed Azerbaijani aggression, who leave us alone against mercenaries, terrorists from the Middle East, and we lose our faith in human rights concept, in democracy, in a Western set of values, a European set of values, and so on and so on. All we get from the West, Western countries, were empty statements and concerns. But when the tanks are firing towards our settlements, you can deal with them. You can resist these tanks and advanced drones and bombardment and so on with empty statements and concerns on the paper. So we had hope that the civilized world will stand by our side, not on the side of the dictators like Erdogan and Aliyev. We had a hope that the civilized Europe, who gives such a huge pledge towards to human rights, democracy, and so on, will not help us with tanks and military weapons, but it will do everything to stop the war, at least to stop the war, because when there are armed hostilities, there's only one thing in your mind. You want the war to be stopped in every means. So what we got, it was no signs from Europe, no signs from the other co-chairs of the OSCE's group, USA and France, but we got Russian mediation, who mediated and deployed its peacekeepers in our region. So when Europeans they say that we are in Artsakh are pro-Russians and we are happy with the Russian presence here, I can only say that no country is happy that it loses some slice of its sovereignty. And with the presence of third countries' military presence on its land, but we had no option than to agree Russian peacekeeping presence here. So when on the one hand you have empathy statements and concerns and calls from Europe, and also peacekeepers and from Russia, you have no alternative, and also nothing to think about to stop the war. And I don't call it peace, but it's preferable than the war.
Yeah, totally understood. So we are going to pass for the next question, or the other side of the war. John, you were also a witness of the war in Artsakh. How was it? I don't know if you have been in other situation or war situations, and you can compare a little bit. How was the hostilities of the Azerbaijan army, and how was a little bit the situation that you lived in the first days of November?
Well, 1 month ago, HBU is Armenian union, benevolent union, invited me in an observation mission to Armenia and also to Artsakh. I've been during 1 week in Armenia, no only meeting journalists and politicians, or also the president of the Republic of Armenia. I was also with refugees or displacees from Artsakh in Goris, thousands of people, children, refugees in Armenia. We also visited some hospitals, and we saw what the forbidden weapons and no conventional weapons like cluster bombs and also phosphorus bombs produced in bodies. Terrible, was terrible. You asked me if before I been in conflict areas. It's true. Before I saw war realities and conflicts in Middle East, but for me was the worst moment in my life, taking into account, and Anus mentioned that we saw when I spent 3 days in Stepanakert, and the city was bombing constantly. It was not 1 hour without alarm. And the objective, the purpose of these shellings, of these bombs, was the city, was the hospital, was the market, the churches, the houses, culture center. And in my opinion, the purpose of these shellings was just to try to commit an ethnic cleansing. And the city of Stepanakert at this moment was empty. Only, I don't know, 10%, 20% of the population was in Stepanakert, living in shelters. All the time, we could listen, not only the alarm, also the bombs everywhere were exploding close to us. And was a terrible moment. And it's for this reason that we are speaking not only about a humanitarian crisis, we are speaking about war crimes, forbidden weapons, the use of mercenaries, that I can say that they were not only mercenaries, they were jihadists, that Turkey transferred to the region in order to commit all kinds of war crimes. One of them, he was captured, and he said that he was paid, I don't know, 2,000 euros or $2,000 per month. But if he was able to cut an Armenian head, he will have a bonus of $100. You know, this was the purpose of these people transferred by Turkey in the region. But I was mentioning the fact to bomb civilian infrastructures and also civilians directly, it means that the purpose was to commit another ethnic cleansing, because it's not the first time that Azerbaijan and Turkey, but we will mention maybe later, but there is the same ethnic nation. They have more than brotherhood links. There is the same nation, and it's for this reason that Turkey and Mr. Erdogan, in this neo-Ottoman plan that he's committing, not only in Caucasus now, also in the Mediterranean area and in the Middle East, it's for this reason that he wants to control all the neo-Ottoman Empire influence areas. And the fact is that I had the occasion, the opportunity to go to Artsakh. It was not the same thing that before in other times, but I am a witness, not only me. There are other journalists and other observers that they went to the area, and we could say what happened from there. And the purpose of my trip was not only to see what was happening, because we have nowadays all kinds of social media, and we can see at the moment. The idea of the purpose was to put attention. Why? Because everyone in Western countries was looking to the American elections, and also trying to tackle the pandemic crisis that we have nowadays in our societies. And in my opinion, I don't know what do you think, but in my opinion, it's for this reason that Mr. Aliyev and Mr. Erdogan decided to attack in the end of September, because they knew that everyone was looking to other news and other things around the world. I saw a humanitarian crisis, but not only. I saw also war crimes. And I think that the international community, that same of us and same of them, that they didn't act at that moment, they should act now and to investigate correctly what happened 1 month ago until 3 weeks ago in this region, because another time we saw Armenian people suffering an attack, terrible attack, and the international community that other times reacts very quickly. At that time, everyone was looking everywhere.
Yeah, we as a young organizations, we also want to ask about the role that the young people of Artsakh has had. I mean, women and men, obviously. I mean, they were able to. What has been their role during the war and in Artsakh of the young people, young generations?
You know, male population was either or in the army or mobilized, and so the only female population, and those working and responsible for some kind of work, they stayed in the country and in the institutions. So everyone tried to be helpful, either both to the front line and rear. What we saw during these days, it was like, you know, it's a war, and you understand that no good things happen during the war, but you also had a hope that this war will be stopped soon, and everyone, your relatives, your father, your brother, and your friends will be safe and sound. For example, my brother was on the front line, and my father was in rear, supporting brother, helping him, and my days and nights started and ended with attempts to be connected with them and to know how they're doing, just to hear that one alone, and that was enough for me. And like me, so many wives, mothers, and friends, and people who weren't on the front line. They were doing anything that they can to be helpful to the country and the soldiers standing on their positions. So we understand what we live in a conflict-affected country, and this is for a long time, and this happens. The conflict and the war is a part of our lives. And it's not normal, but we used to live in such circumstances and in such conditions. So say that war was news for us, or we weren't ready for such developments, it will not be true. So these kind of things happened in almost in every year, if not in every year, but in 5 years. So I can only say that the youth and also the adults are all lives are adjusted to such conditions, to live neither in war nor peace, and also in war conditions. That's sad but truth.
Yeah, that's really sad. I mean, I am thinking, and I want to the people that is seeing this conference to think that you are a young people living in that conditions of every time violence, and to be I mean all the time in that war situation and prepared to the war. And I think that it shouldn't happen in the 21st century, and it is happening just in Europe. I mean, inside on Europe. And I think that, as you have mentioned, and maybe you can mention that international community has some work to do. We are now, I want to ask John also about the international connections of this conflict, because, as you have mentioned, I mean, Azerbaijan and Turkey, they are in war, but also Russia and the OCD and Minsk. So, what are the involvement of this regional conflict, or this conflict in here?
Okay, as you know, we are speaking about a sensitive area. Caucasus is not an easy area in terms of peace and in terms of interest, and historically was a sensitive area and still being. Nowadays, we have in the south, we have Iran, that has a good relationship with Armenia and doesn't have a very good relationship with Azerbaijan by historical reasons. It's true that Iran has around 30 or 35% of Azeri population inside. Maybe it's because that, but in this conflict, in this last conflict, Iran was not present in the conflict. In the West, we have Turkey, and we mentioned before that Turkey has a historical and historical relationship with Azerbaijan, and they feel and they say that they are the same people, they speak the same language, and we can say that is the same nation. And in fact, Mr. Erdogan was helping from the starting until the end, this kind of drones and all this kind of technology that they use in the war, and they have in Turkey their own interest in the region, and not only in Azerbaijan. I think that Turkey is a very dangerous state nowadays, taking into account what is happening in Cyprus, Greece, Libya, Syria, northern Iraq, in South Kurdistan, and now in Caucasus. After in the north, we have Russia that was the mediator to arrive to the ceasefire in the second week of November, and is an important actor. Why? And they have important role because they have a defense agreement with Armenia. At the same time, Russia is co-chair in the Minsk group, and they try to make a kind of balance between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and for this reason they were able to arrive to this kind of mediation. But it's true that in the last years the Belarus revolution happened in Armenia 2 years ago, was not very well appreciated by Mr. Putin. And I think that Russia now is they have a more important role in the area, taking into account that peacekeepers are present in Artsakh nowadays, and they were the mediators in this conflict. And after there are other actors in the region, that Georgia, that they were some criticized from Armenia, saying that some weapons were arriving to Azerbaijan by Georgia, but at the same time, Georgia banned the possibility to transfer weapons to Armenia during the war. Well, we are speaking about very sensitive area. It's not easy to understand all the arena. There are different actors, but it's clear that after the ceasefire and after the agreement, we have some winners and some losers. I think that everyone is winner when you arrive to a ceasefire and the commission of violence is a stop, is good for everyone. But after that, when you see that the agreement means that will lose not only important areas, historical areas for them, also the buffer areas that were controlled by Artsakh from 20s for 90s, sorry, and we see that Azerbaijan, they recuperate or they will take some territories from Artsakh, also the buffer zones, but I think, if I'm not wrong, that they will have a connection with Nakhichevan. That was not only the dream for Mr. Aliyev, also for Mr. Erdogan in this dream, neo-Ottomanist dream, to connect all the Turkic states. And as I mentioned before, Russia is a winner because they have important role now, not only like mediators, also they have a presence in Artsakh that is new. Before they were present in Armenia, now they are inside Artsakh. It's not easy, and the fact is that it's true that we have a ceasefire, and I think that is a good news for everyone. But the conflict is not solved. The conflict is still the conflict is still on the table, and I think that we should find a solution for the conflict, because if not, maybe we will have another war in some months or some years, and it's for this reason that it would be important to find a final solution for this historical conflict.
Yes, as you have mentioned, John, a ceasefire, also Anush, before, a ceasefire was signed in 9th of November by the Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia. And, well, the agreement, it's a huge loss of territory for Artsakh, lands and villages inhabited by Armenian people by many years, and also the town of Shushi, really close to the capital of Stepanakert. As you can see, maybe in the map, also there is the buffer zone and the connection to Nakhichevan, and also the peacekeepers that are deployed in Artsakh. So the question is to Anush, and then for John Iñárritu, it is possible, or what is the future for Artsakh? It is, in my opinion, I think that the war is over, but not the conflict. The conflict hasn't been solved. Is there any possible solution to close this conflict and to live in peace? and what was be.
So Mr. Inautu told and presented all the details regarding the conflict and international perception of the conflict. So I think that he's fully right that war is over, but the conflict is far from being resolved, and the same perception is here, and we have the same perception. Why conflict is not over? Because there are so many issues that are pending. For example, the status of Artsakh is not solved. So they are the question of the new generation of IDPs rose during this war. So there are so many problems that should be decided, and I hope this time through peaceful talks and negotiations will be resumed soon, I hope. So what we think about the end of this conflict, we think that there is only one way to put an end to this conflict finally, and for a long-lasting peace in the region. There is one way, and it is the international recognition of the Republic of Artsakh that can put an end to this conflict and establish peace and stability in the region. So we hope that countries and people interested in long-lasting peace and stability and security in the South Caucasus region, they will understand and can to this move, this political move, and they will have willpower enough to put an end to hostilities and to this conflict. We also think that in the person of Azerbaijan, we haven't a reliable partner for peace. So even and the first signs coming from Azerbaijan and the Azerbaijani leadership is that they are not even satisfied with the November 9 ceasefire agreement that was signed on their conditions. So they continue to consider Nagorno-Karabakh Republic as part of Azerbaijan. Even they have no legal basis for such kind of claims. Neither in the frames of international law, nor in the Soviet legislation, and there is no legal argument, even no document that can serve as a basis for contemporary Azerbaijani claims over Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. So we hope that the international community will be interested in peace processes and will impose Azerbaijani leadership to resume negotiations to finally solve this conflict. That's the only way that we are thinking the conflict can be solved. It can be solved peacefully through negotiations, and also we hope that countries involved as mediators in this conflict, such as France and USA, and also Russia, these countries understand the region better than the others, and we hope that they will do everything to resume the negotiations.
John, you agree?
Yes,
Indifferent?
totally. I think that it was said, but I think that the war is over. Hope it's a good news, but the conflict is not over, and we should find a solution. To try to find a solution was established the Minsk group, and I think that is the best way to find a solution. Secondly, we have not only the conflict, we have also a humanitarian crisis after the offensive, after the attack from Azerbaijan and Turkey. I read just today that 27% of the population of Artsakh can't go to their homes because the houses and these areas and these cities they will be controlled by Azerbaijan, and obviously they don't want to go back to their homes if they will be in controlled by Azerbaijan. And we should try to help by humanitarian help, by funds, and for this reason it's important also to ask our governments to help Armenia, to help Artsakh, to try to solve this humanitarian crisis. And I think, it's just to finish, from my point of view, this case is a clear case of remedial secession case, and to help, because for some countries, some states, or some international organization, maybe is not the best solution. I think that a clear investigation about the war crimes that have been committed during the last weeks in Artsakh maybe would be helpful to understand for these people why the remedial cessation is the best way, not only for Artsakh, not only for Nagorno-Karabakh, also for the region as a whole.
So the question goes to Anush. John has said that we have to help Artsakh, and I think that I agree. How can we help Artsakh?
So for everyone who is watching us tonight, my message is the following. Artsakh and this conflict is about human rights and freedom. So please don't be indifferent to what Artsakh people and their aspirations for freedom. Raise your voice in supporting the right of the Artsakh people to self-determination and its aspiration for being a full-fledged member of the international community. As much as human rights are ignored, wars and bloodshed will take in place. So all of you who can raise his or her voice and push their politicians and their parliaments, their governments to support Artsakh and to support Artsakh's people's aspirations, please do that. Take these kind of actions, and because we strongly believe that the international recognition of Artsakh is the only way to put an end to this conflict and establish peace in this region. So the peace and stability, security are so so much weighted in this region, and people are really tired of these never-ending wars and armed hostilities. We construct, we build, then Azerbaijanis came and destroy. We rebuild again, and they came again and destroy again. So I think it's enough for this kind of suffering, and these people deserve live in peace and in stability. So please take action and push your governments to support Artsakh and recognize Artsakh to end this conflict. That's my message for everyone.
Thank you for the message. John, you have last final statement. You want to say something?
Just to express my solidarity and support with the Armenian people from Artsakh and also from Armenia. And I think that to take action from our parliaments, institutions, could be helpful, and I will try to do my best in the institution where I am, but I think that everyone should do the same, not only to resolve this conflict in Europe, also to help people that suffer a lot in the history, in the last century, in the last years, in the last month. And I would like only to express the solidarity from my political group to all the Armenian people. Thank you.
Yes, from our point of view also, and from European Free Alliance Youth, we want to express our solidarity, and that we will try to raise our voice and take action in order to defend Artsakh, and with that idea that the conflict it exists and it will continue until the right of the self-determination it is made and it is made possible. So this has been the conference. We have more than 1 hour. Thank you very much, Anush. Thank you very much, John, for coming. I hope we have the next one in Artsakh, celebrating the end of the conflict and celebrating that finally the conflict is over and we are free and we vote. Thank you everyone for watching us. Stay tuned in our social media. We are going also to make other conferences and other questions and other activities. So follow us in the social media. And this has been all. Thank you very much to all, and see you soon, I hope.